So I, 28 female, don't really know how to start this. So I'll start from the beginning. I come from a really dysfunctional family and always grew up around chaos, drama, and abuse of all sorts. Being yelled at and living violence was our normal daily life. My two younger sisters, 24 and 21, are the daughters of the man making us live through hell and back. I'll call them Anne and Steph, fake names. Growing up, I was always closer to Anne since we've been through the same type of abuse from the same man. Steph was my mom's favorite, so even though she experienced some trauma too, it wasn't as much, or so I thought. Becoming adults, things shifted. Anne moved to another city that was kinda close, so I only saw her on holidays and that type of stuff. Steph, though, we became closer every year. I realized she felt like being kept apart most of her life, and despite living less violence than Anne and I, she went through her share of BS too. Recently, I went to see her with my girlfriend, and she felt comfortable revealing some childhood secrets I didn't expect, and abused her from when she was 6 to when she turned 11. She never spoke about this to anyone. After 10 years, she finally felt secure enough in our relationship to talk about it. At first, I wasn't really surprised and always had issues with being too sexual, even when she was only 9 years old. She would be kicked out of schools because of her behavior, but we never thought she did that behavior at home. She told us and forced her to get eaten out, watch porn, learn how to have sex with men and women when she was only 6-ish years old, and even more to say I was shocked as an understatement. I still don't know what to do about it, I know, and had sexual abuse going on with her birth mother, and her father abused her in that way for 3-ish years. But I didn't know she repeated the pattern with my youngest sister. I'm torn between wanting to beat the SHTT out of her and understanding where she comes from. I'm not condoning at all what happened and what she did. Knowing everything she's been through, I understand why she did it. Hurt people, they say, right? But what do you do when it's your sister? I want to tell my mom, but I don't want to make my already dysfunctional family implode even more than it did before. We were just starting to become united like a family is supposed to be. We were healing, slowly, but still. Now I just don't know what to do outside of being present for my baby sister and giving her all the support that I can. Update 1. I didn't expect my post to have so much traction, and I can't answer everybody properly, so I'll do a shortcut and update here. Before accusing Anne of being a predator and everything, you have to take into consideration a few factors. First of all, Anne is not my biological sister. We don't have the same father or mother. My biological mother adopted her after learning the abuse she went through with Anne's biological mother and her biological fathers. This man is my mom's ex who physically abused me for years, and he also fathered my baby sister. So Anne and Steph are half-sisters, just like Steph and I are from our mother, but I have no biological link to Anne. I hope this is more clear. Also, Anne went through hell as soon as 5 years old. Her mother made her take cocaine. At 6, she was forced to watch videos of her mom getting railed in threesomes and foursomes, and at 7, she was forced to participate for the preliminary. At 8, she started to participate for real, and that's when her father got the legal rights over her. So she moved to her father's house where the abuse continued until she was 11. At that age, she ran to my mother's house to confess the abuse, and my mom started all the legal procedures to adopt her. At 12, my mom officially had all the legal rights to her. At first, and didn't want to talk at all, but after a few months, she felt the need to confess. So my mom made her see a therapist around her 13th birthday. At 14, she stopped abusing my baby sister, and we started seeing big changes in her attitude. As much as what she did was disgusting, I don't see her as a monster or a predator. She never displayed any types of predatory behavior after seeing a therapist. She always had narcissistic behaviors, which has always ticked me off, but nothing more. If so, some of her exes abused her sexually too, and I had to remind her where she comes from and why she shouldn't accept it again. The girl was 16, in an abusive relationship, getting abused, and she was accepting it because it's all she ever knew. I know this is Reddit, and this can get wild, but remember she was 9 when it all started, and it stopped when my mom put her in therapy. As much as what she did wasn't right at all, she was just a kid repeating what she had seen for her whole life until that point. As to the situation itself, I talked with Steph, and she's comfortable to open the topic with my mother. We don't want to involve our older siblings because their reactions aren't 100% predictable, and we don't want to start a nuclear war in the family. We're taking this step by step and going at my sister's pace. Top-rated comment on the post. I used to work with a childhood sex therapist, and she told me that repeating the behaviors done to you on your siblings is a coping mechanism and comfort behavior a child will continue for years after if not watched over carefully. It is her fault, but it's not. She was a child doing what she knew. They are both victims, even though it may be hard to see because one is also an offender. If anything, I would talk to your sister if you can and find out if this is something that continues into adulthood. Update 2. My baby sister and her heavy secret. Mom knows. First of all, I want to thank everyone and their kind messages on my first post. I've had amazing comments that really warmed my heart and made me able to see different sides of the story I didn't consider. I didn't know so many people would mind, but thank you so much. I've had way too much messages about the topic I can't really keep up, but a lot of people asked about an update. Sorry if I didn't answer you. Going back to this is kinda hard mentally. If you haven't read my initial post, go read it so I don't repeat myself. It's a heavy subject, and I don't necessarily find it fun to go back there, you know? Anyways, we spoke to my mom about the sexual abuse Anne did to my baby sister. For those who wanted an update, I don't think it's the happy story you wanted. My mom didn't have the best reaction ever. You remember I told you I come from a dysfunctional background? Well, it hit again. My mom blew a fuse, but didn't even contact Anne. She keeps the rage boiling inside of her, and she's about to blow up. To say she was angry is an understatement. She started yelling, insulting Anne and Steph, and I just stood there. It's like if she missed the whole point of the situation and decided to throw out the rage 3 people should have felt instead of just her. She still invited Anne for the Christmas dinner, in 3 days, and to confront her in front of the whole family, at the family Christmas reunion. I still can't wrap my head around it. I didn't want to talk to Anne about it just yet. I wanted Steph to give me the permission to do so, but she doesn't seem 100% against the idea of ridiculing Anne in front of everyone. I also don't want to react and tell her, making my sister feel like I'm on her abuser's side. It's not the case, but it doesn't feel right to just sit with that thought and not do anything. So now I'm stuck between 2 chairs. Either I say nothing and watch him being bashed highly probably by my whole family on Christmas Eve.
I say something, and I might ruin the trust my baby sister has finally gained from me, while also making my mother turn Super Saiyan. Merry Christmas to me, I guess. Op gave some context in the comments. Comment 1, I don't want to force my baby sister to face Anne.
She just started speaking about what she's been through. Just for that, she deserves to be protected at all costs until she's ready to move forward and get to the next steps of grieving her trauma. Putting her in the same room as Anne will just make everything we worked on in the last weeks go backwards. Comment 2, that's why I feel stuck in this situation. On one side, I totally understand where Anne comes from without condoning what she has done. On the other hand, I perfectly understand my mom's rage. She adopted Anne and never thought she'd go do that to her lastborn. I promised Steph I wouldn't talk to Anne about what she confessed to me, but now I feel like I'm forced to do so just so Christmas doesn't implode into a shit show. Comment 3, as much as I love my mother, she's been through her fair load of issues too. She's been through rape. I almost was the product of one, hunger, violent acts, and more. So I guess her reaction roots basically from the fact she's been through that, and she never wanted her lastborn to go through the same thing. She always protected Steph so much. I'm not saying she's not an asshole here, just so you know. I'm just giving you a little more background so you can maybe understand why my family is so broken and dysfunctional. That's all each of us have known. Update 3. My sister's heavy secret at Christmas. For those of you who haven't read the first 2 posts, I highly recommend you to do so and to buckle up, because that was one hell of a Christmas party. For those of you who wanted a post-Christmas update, here I come, and as I said, buckle up because it is many twists and turns. So I think I left the story when my mom went crazy and decided to still invite my sister to the Christmas party. For those of you who asked me to tell Anne, I didn't have the heart to go against what my baby sister asked me to do, which was saying nothing. But I talked to my mom before the Christmas party. I made sure Steph wouldn't be around since she still lives with my mother, and I've tried talking it out. I'm paraphrasing because I stayed plus or minus 3 hours talking with her, so between the rage fits, the tears, the insults, and coming back to reality, there's a lot of stuff that happened. At first, my mom accused me of being as worse as Anne since I'm taking her side, so I had to remind her that I wasn't. I just felt stuck between 2 chairs and I hated the feeling. She hit me with the imagine if your baby daughter has been abused by the non-blood related daughter you welcomed in your house, and I had to admit, she had a point. So I told her that daughter you're welcome took every piece of advice and the therapy you sent her, and she stopped her wrongdoings. but she said it was too late because it still happened. Seeing that no matter what, my mom would try to make her look like a victim seeking revenge on Christmas, I had to hit her where it hurts so she can realize how stupid it would be and how much it would hurt the whole family. So, basically what I said is, how would you react if on Christmas I told the whole family that your ex, father of your youngest, used to beat me up every day for 10 years and you didn't do shit about it? How would you feel? The room became silent, but like a loud silence, it was so weird. She stayed there, looking at a wall, and didn't say anything for a good 5 minutes before saying it wasn't the same. No, it wasn't the same, but it would have the same repercussions, but for her. After talking about it, she agreed to not confront Anne in front of everybody, and to keep the Christmas spirit alive and joyful for this year. So Anne did come at Christmas, but Steph wasn't happy at all. She ended up drinking a lot of the different alcoholic beverages we had around, so you can imagine her mood. She was grumpy, snappy, and hating the entire world, and I understand her. I just made sure to never leave Anne and Steph alone. I was always between the two. So between Steph saying mean things to Anne and Anne not understanding why she was attacked, I had to take Anne apart. So I went for a walk with Anne and felt the mood being off. Mind you, there's now my mother, my girlfriend, my big brother, and I all aware of what happened, and it was showing. Anne kept repeating that she didn't understand why everyone was cold and distant. I had to keep my promise, so I told her, you know how the family is. We're always at each other's throat, and that's when Anne told me she had a Christmas breakfast with her biological mother the next day, and she wasn't feeling it. That's why she decided to smoke a joint during the walk. When you take everything together, she was about to explode herself. What she told me, though, I still don't know how to react. Again, I'm paraphrasing because it's easier this way, and at that point, I had a few drinks under my belt. I know my bio mother wasn't the best, and she made me learn really awful things. That made me do awful things. But I don't know how I can deal with it. Our mom did her best, and I still feel like I broke something up without knowing I was breaking it at the time. That's when I knew Steph wasn't lying or exaggerating what happened. Despite that, I still gave her the warmest hug and told her she didn't need to tell me what she did. It's Christmas, and we can talk about it once the holidays are done. When we came back, my mom went for Anne's throat in a private room for smoking. And that's when I told her half the people here are drunk. They ain't better, piss off. She looked at me as if I just betrayed her, and when it was time to eat, my mom really tried to make the whole dinner go to trash. You see, I have a big family and not enough room so everyone can eat together. Therefore, she had to make 2 tables, meaning she had to separate some people. It was the perfect moment to keep Anne and Steph apart, but of course she didn't. On her first drafts, she decided to put them together and said there's no room to change the order. So in her back, I decided to switch with Steph so they could eat apart and enjoy the food without having to look at Anne the whole time. Mind you, everywhere you looked, I made sure they weren't in the same room so there wasn't any room for confrontation. After the dinner and unwrapping the gifts, my baby sister went to sleep. She was exhausted and clearly way too drunk to keep her composure. Anne left shortly after, and we ended up being with only my mom and my brother. My brother is basically on my side. We both want the best for our family and recognize that we must talk about the elephant in the room. Just not now. My mom ended up kicking me out for clearly being on Anne's side, and that she couldn't believe I was on my baby sister's abuser's side. Honestly, at this point, I'm just exhausted. I have much more issues to deal with at the moment, and family drama ain't cutting it. But I'm tired. I'm honestly done fighting against everything. My life has never been peaceful or joyful. It has always been fights, wars, and survival. If anyone has the patience to read my other posts, you'll understand what I mean.
I'm so close to giving up, and being ripped apart by both sides of my family ain't helping at all. I don't know if there's gonna be an update to this, but that's where we are right now. At least my mom didn't go Super Saiyan on Christmas lol.
Update. My babysitter's heavy secret, Christmas BS, and being gone. For those of you who haven't read the other updates or original posts, I'll make a quick resume. My baby sister, Steph, confessed to my girlfriend and I that she has been sexually abused by her bigger sister, and for a few years when they were young. She also confessed to my mom, who went ballistic, and they tried screwing Christmas by revealing that secret to the whole family on the 24th. It didn't happen, but a few dramas did happen that night, and it was super awkward. We've let it sit for a little while so the dust comes down, the pressure lowers, and now it explodes again. Sorry, this update is going to be kind of long since a lot happened, but I'd really like some insights because we're bumping into walls with this. Here's where we are now. I went to spend a mother-daughter day with my mother after all of this happened. I I felt like we needed time, just her and I, talking about other stuff than the abuse and outside of the family home where tension is always at its highest. We went to get new haircuts, dinner, and buy winter boots. Nothing too crazy, but it honestly felt good to go through a normal day without tension or drama with my mother. I know in the last updates I made her seem like a dragon ready to burn down everything, but she's not. She's just super protective and she's borderline, so sometimes she has difficulties managing her emotions. But she really is a good woman with flaws like anyone else. She apologized for how she acted during Christmas and wanted to blow up the celebrations. She was disgusted by Anne's actions and didn't know what to do. She also had a talk with Anne. They didn't talk about the sexual abuse, but for some reason, Anne decided to trash talk my girlfriend for some flaws that she does have, but is currently working on since she's aware of it. She made fun of old pictures of her when she was overweight, but was still psychologically anorexic, claiming wasn't she anorexic because she looks fat AF on that picture is basically what she said, and my mom felt like I needed to know that and said that. My mom assured me that when the conversation turned to that, she made some BS excuses to hang up the phone because she was uncomfortable with her behavior since my mom also struggled with ED growing up. So she knows being anorexic ain't only about the weight, but mostly about the relationship someone has with food. This doesn't seem to have a connection to the essay story, but bear with me, it's going to explode soon. When I came back home, I told my GF I'd have a call with my sister about how she spoke about her. I didn't want to tell her what she said since my GF is still struggling with ED. It's not as bad as before since we're working on it, but she still has a bad vision of her body, so I didn't want her to be triggered. I ended up telling her, which she took really nicely for how rude my sister was and asked to be like a ghost on the call, but still present to hear what she had to say. So when I called her, I put her on speakerphone and talked really calmly, nicely, and tried to turn around the bushes because I never know how and will act when confronted with something bad she has done. I'll paraphrase a little because the call was short, but escalated really quickly. So I've heard you had a conversation with Mom. Yeah, why? How did it go? Good. Why? Because I've heard some stuff I didn't like, to be honest, and I'd like to know what y'all talked about. We talked about your girlfriend. Why? I know that. I just want to know why y'all started to talk about her. Becomes passive-aggressive. We were talking about her father at first and ended up talking about her. Yeah, but why? Starts raising her voice. Well, because... Why do you want to know my conversations? Because you talked about my girlfriend's anorexia when she was young and made fun of it. Raises her voice again. I didn't make fun of it.
Yes you did. Starts screaming. No, I didn't. So if you don't want to believe me, you can just go fuck yourself. Hangs up the phone.
As soon as she hung up the phone, I sent her an audio telling her I was sick of her behavior, and with the stories coming back to surface, I felt like it was appropriate to cut ties with her and proceeded to block her on all social media. Mind you, every time she does something like that, she has the same reaction, so I'm honestly done with her perverted narcissistic behavior. I've done enough and I'm done. But this phone call was about to be Anne's downfall without her even knowing it. That's why I'm putting this whole context. It's the domino effect for what's going to happen next. Not even 3 minutes later, my mom forwards me an audio of Anne screaming at her, hysterically telling her to mind her own damn business, that my mom is hypocritical and can't keep her mouth shut. After some back and forth, Anne decided to block my mom because she doesn't want to be on her side and prefers to listen to me. Mind you, Anne doesn't know that at this point, her essay on Steph has been known by my mother, my biological father, my ex-stepfather, brother, sister, uncle, and more. We decided with Steph to talk to everyone privately, one by one, and let us deal with Anne when she's comfortable enough. Making everyone aware one by one made her gain a lot of courage and went and decided to block my mom and act like a victim. I switched one off with my baby sister. I'll be paraphrasing again because she sent a 2-minute audio on Messenger to Anne, but here's basically what she said. Hi Anne. First of all, I want to tell you that we're all done with how you treat us. You put us down to put yourself up, and we all see clearly in your game. I also wanted to let you know that everyone knows what you've done to me when we were kids. They all know the repeated essay, and that's why the mood was off at Christmas. Expect this to be my last words to you from now on. Fuck you and burn in hell. The last 6 words are really what she said, and I gave her a high five on this because she felt so good getting this off her chest. Since then, Anne has been trying to reach out to common friends to make herself the victim in the situation. She admitted to my mom that she did abuse Steph when they were kids, but it was just a one-time thing, the day after her father essayed her. Knowing the timeline doesn't make any sense. She said she realized how disgusting it was after doing it, but at first she didn't know because her father used to tell her it was a special kind of love, and she repeatedly said sorry for being such a monster like my father, so she's really playing her violin while on her devil's act. So now we've all cut contacts with Anne because this is going too far. She's trying to reach out to as many friends we have in common possible, and we're trying to fix the damages of that. We recommended to Steph to deactivate Facebook and Instagram for the next few days since we're getting flooded by family and friends about the stories. We don't want her to go back to it while Anne just keeps yapping around making herself look like the angel when she's clearly the devil. What can we do about it outside of that? It's blowing out of proportions really quickly. We're keeping all the receipts just in case, but this is getting overwhelming and we're lost at this point. For all the kind messages and advice, thank you so much. I'm sending everyone a virtual hug, and I hope you're having a good 2024 atmospheres. Op provided another update in the comments. We weren't fine, we were respecting my baby sister's wishes. She didn't want us to tell everyone. After a talk, she decided to talk one by one to family members after Christmas. By the new year, everyone was aware of what happened. At that point, tension was at its highest because we were all mad at Anne. Mind you, she has always been kind of mean and a bully. She had to change schools a lot because of her behavior, but we always thought it was because of her biological parents. My mother adopted her after and allegedly was SA'd by her bio father, which ended up being lies. The situation with my girlfriend was just the last drop that made the whole thing explode. After years and years of trying to empathize with her behavior, after learning that she abused my baby sister, and she gave me the go to block her if I wanted to, which she didn't do when she first told me the essay, I took the opportunity to cut her off my life for good.
It's been 23 years of trying to empathize with her behavior, telling myself she was just repeating the behavior she saw her whole life. Every time we heard something bad about her, she turned the story around and somehow made herself look like a victim.
Since we grew up together and I considered her as a sister, we took her words for granted, which we shouldn't have, and we know we made a mistake on this. We all regret empathizing so much with her behavior because it made us blind. Now we see clearly through all her lies. How she aggravated what she's been through with her bio father and her bio mother. How she aggravated every bad things that supposedly happened to her, etc. Think this story is as much as you want. I'd like it to be fake too, but it's not. It's been boiling for 23 years, man. It's not through a few Reddit posts that you can proclaim yourself a professional of the situation. Op updated about Anne in another comment. Actually, no, you don't know her. We've spoken to her, and she admitted she knew she sexually abused her little sister and that it would traumatize her. She told us since Steph has always been the favorite of my mom, she wanted her to suffer. We are actually starting legal procedures since she messaged us those exact words and admitted to do it willingly. Believe me, we thought for the longest time she never knew the consequences of her actions, but she did know and has absolutely no remorse. She even admitted abusing other people throughout her childhood, teenage years, and adulthood. At that point, she's a predator and has always displayed predatory behavior. We were just blind to it. I can't display too much information for legal purposes, but believe me, she knew perfectly. If you've made it to this point, you're a beast.